Have you ever had that feeling like you're playing a game, but you don't actually know all the rules? Well, today we're going to dig into that. We're going to uncover the hidden rule books, the ones that are written, unwritten, and maybe even cosmic, that are quietly shaping our lives every single day. We're going to look at three totally different sets of rules. We're talking everything from government laws to the laws of the universe. And we'll see how they can dictate our success, our failures, and even how happy we feel. So let's start with the rule book that we're all, supposed to know. All right, first up, the written code. This is society's official rule book. And to see just how tricky even these visible rules can be, we're going to look at a really powerful financial agency in India, the Enforcement Directorate. You might have heard of them as the ED. So, what does the ED actually do? Well, according to its former chief, Director K. Singh, its job has changed a lot. It's not just about managing foreign currency anymore. Nope. Today, its real power comes from something called the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, or PMLA. And that means it's hunting for the profits from some very specific and very serious crimes. And this is where that rulebook gets super specific. See, not all illegal money is the same in the eyes of the law. The ED, they don't usually chase what we call black money, from tax evasion. That's a job for the income tax department. No, the ED is focused on red money. We're talking cash tied to crimes like terrorism, and pink money, which comes from drug trafficking. That distinction, it's everything. So how do people even move this kind of money around? Well, often it's through this ancient system called hawala. It's actually a pretty fascinating process. It's built completely on trust. You give your cash to an operator in one city. They make a phone call, and their partner in another city gives the exact same amount to the person you want to pay. The cash itself never actually moves across a border. And here's where we hit a real wait what moment, a surprising loophole in the rulebook. You'd probably think hawala is illegal, period. But get this. According to Director Singh, if that transfer happens entirely inside India, it doesn't automatically break one of the main laws the ED is there to enforce. Why not? Well, it all comes down to one word: foreign. The F in FEMA stands for foreign. So a hawala transfer from, say, Delhi to Mumbai, yeah, it might be a big problem for the tax authorities, but since no money actually crossed an international border, it doesn't break the foreign exchange rulebook. It just goes to show how literal these written codes can be. But what about the rules that aren't written down at all? And that brings us to rulebook number 2, the cosmic code. Okay, so if the written code is all about precise definitions, this one is about something way more abstract. We're talking about karma, right? That unseen law that so many spiritual traditions believe is steering our destiny. To get a feel for how this cosmic rulebook is supposed to work, let's look at this old story. It's about a king who was notoriously cheap, just never gave to charity. And there's this saint who just would not leave him alone about. Finally, the king just snaps. He's had enough. So he sarcastically offers the saint the most worthless thing he can possibly think of, a pile of horse dung. But the saint, he just accepts it, totally gracious, and gives this simple, kind of cryptic blessing. May it grow. And oh boy, did it grow. The very next morning, a literal mountain of stinking dung is blocking the palace gates, and it's getting bigger by the hour. The king's sarcastic gift, all that negative energy he put out, was literally multiplying right in front of him. So the king, panicking, tracks down the saint and begs him for a solution. And the saint's advice is, well, it's completely bizarre. He says, make your people curse you. The king does what he's told. And as his people start cursing his name, talking bad about him, the mountain of dung starts to shrink. And then it vanishes completely. The takeaway from this rulebook is pretty wild but powerful. It suggests that when other people speak ill of you, they might actually be clearing your karmic debt for you without even knowing it. Okay, so we've looked at rules written by society and rules supposedly written by the cosmos. But that brings us to the third, and maybe the most powerful rulebook of all, the internal code. This is the one we write for ourselves, right inside our own minds. And here's the thing. Even when you seem to have mastered all the external games of life, Your internal rulebook can be completely broken. Just look at the story of the celebrated cricketer Yaduvendra Yadu Chandran, who was brave enough to share his own struggle with this. I mean, this is such a painful paradox, isn't it? You look at this list, here's a guy who had everything society tells us should make you happy. Fame, money, friends, the whole package. But his internal reality, it was the complete opposite. He was trapped by a rule in his own mind, a rule that probably said something like, I can't show weakness. And all that external success couldn't do a thing to erase it. So how did he even begin to rewrite that broken rule? Well, it wasn't by winning another match. It was by stepping away from the game completely. He had to lean on his closest friends and family. And that real human connection, that was the one thing that could finally start to reset his internal code. So we've got these societal rules, cosmic rules, and the rules inside our own heads. They're all complex, and sometimes they even contradict each other. Which brings us to the big question. Can we consciously choose our own rules? Can we take back some control? Well, that's the idea behind what we're calling the human code. Now, a really popular theory for this is the law of attraction. It basically suggests that our reality is shaped by the energy we put out into the world. And that energy is controlled by these 4 buttons, so to speak. Our feelings, our thoughts, our beliefs, and finally, our actions. The whole idea is to get all 4 of them aligned, to consciously write the reality you actually want. But if it's that simple, why doesn't it seem to work all the time? Well, people who are really into this say it's because there's a conflict, a battle between our conscious desires and our subconscious programming. We might be consciously mashing the I want to be successful button, but there's a deeper, hidden rule, a limiting belief that got installed when we were kids that's quietly sabotaging the entire system from behind the scenes. So there you have it, the written code of society, the cosmic code of karma, and the internal code of the mind. Each one has its own logic, its own power, and the goal really isn't to master just one of them, but to see how they all connect and play out in your own life, which brings everything back to you. After seeing them laid out like this, which rulebook have you been ignoring?